Good afternoon, everyone. Well, it's actually still morning here in the UK. For us as speakers or workshop facilitators, as we've got coaches and global leaders and HR people, but I am really pleased to be here today. So before I talk about me, I really want to make two promises today. First, I really want to make this about you. So in a minute, I'm going to ask you a question. I'd love you to be vulnerable and answer it in the chat if you could. And the second one is, I'm not going to sell my marketing plan to you. This is literally things that have been brought together over the last year. And whilst I will explain what I do, I'm just here to try and facilitate some conversation. So I'd love you to get involved in the second part of these slides where we'll be doing some Miro type work. Right, okay. So if we just move over to this next slide, this is a little bit of vulnerability, and I just see if I can get some conversation going here. Based on where we are in COVID, in our roles and our jobs, I just wondered if you could share how are you doing? You know, I mean, have things been a bit of a roller coaster, a bit maxed out? Maybe you're doing perfectly fine. I'd love to hear that if you don't mind. I'll give you a minute or two. And if you can do that in the chat, please. Great, Devion is on the way up. Yeah, I've seen that. Roller coaster, I totally understand that, Juliet. A roller coaster for Nelson, yes, I understand that. Thank you for sharing that. Roller coasters, yeah, interesting, yeah. So I did have this on a Miro board, by the way, and it was too complicated. Uncertainty on the up, doing well, pretty good so far from Pablo, learning to adapt. Sometimes uncertain, says Blanca. The future is difficult to predict. Yeah, I totally understand that. That's and I think a lot of people are, I mean, I don't really want to use blanket responses, but you know, a lot of us, even when we're coming out of this end, are finding real sort of challenges. Any more answers before I move on to actually speaking? Uncertain, yeah. Yeah, thank you. If I had the numbers, I mean, that's really interesting because I do understand that in reality, I'm speaking to the converted. We're interested in people, right? Eric says that the last year has provided me with a great chance to spend more time with the family, to get closer to kids due to homeschooling. This is a perfect answer. This is very aligned to this little workshop today. Thank you, Eric. Venkatesh, I'm sorry to hear down and down. I do get that. I do really understand that. And Susan, hi. I didn't know you were here. Hi. So she's seconding Eric's piece. And yeah, so thank you so much for that. I will jump into this and sort of give you a little background. So I was speaking to a COO, and he looked at me and said, "So you mean I have to probably demote myself?" Yes. And he didn't really comprehend it. And he really took it badly, if I'm honest. And that wasn't a great moment. And I think we've all felt periods where we've hit very difficult scenarios. But a month later, I received a text message with the word, "I'm just loving it." And it was amazing to see that difference. I had nothing to do with this, but it did have everything to do with values and value in the world. And they're the two sides that I'd love to be working with you all on this today. My disclaimer is that it's only an hour or maybe a little bit less. So this is really some work that if you could do anything, I would love you to feel intrigued by this mini workshop. If we could do it in person, even better. I really want you to think about you. That piece there, Eric, we're talking with the kids. That's spending time with family. And yes, I do understand, Devjani, around uncertain times, and and the encouragement by meeting like-minded and great people, especially in this sessions today. And I'm going to throw my CTA in at the beginning, and that is, I would love you to find your bliss. Now, we're all on that mission, right? We're all on that thing to find the perfect fit for us. And in a way, COVID is an opportunity to do that. And now I'll introduce me. So I'm Hutton, and I'm really good friends with Anirvan and Devyani, and I'm really pleased to be here. And he said, "Look, can you help us with the workshop? This is definitely your bag." And I was really excited. And then he said, "It's an hour," and I was like, "Holy!" So really, I should show that I have a little coloured bar there. And I wonder if any of you know Colby at all, the strength training? I'll give it a few seconds. Oh, okay. Yeah, so Anirvan, a couple of people, yeah, definitely. So I have, hi Chris, thank you. So effectively, so I run a technology business. It's a management consultancy. That's what it's growing into. And it's got this, we go in and help look at technology on behalf of investors. So that's got nothing to do with today, right? It doesn't sound like anything to do with people, but it has everything to do with people, because what I've found, I guess just from osmosis, that who cares about the P&L and the tech? It's the people that make it. It's the people who maintain it. And it's the people that have to love their jobs to be able to create great businesses. And so over my, I guess of my journey, if you like, I wanted to find the right thing. I did a lot of personality testing, the DISCs and MBTI, and the things that we trying to work out teams, because a lot of my team work is around mergers and acquisitions, when you're bringing people together. And I was very lucky to be introduced by into Colby by a friend who's a biohacker of all things. And Colby is all around learning your natural strengths. And I will talk about it in a little bit of time, but really in terms of this color sort of thing at the bottom, that's my sort of assessment, if you like, and it's a numbering system. And the only reason I want to bring it up is I had to write a brand new workshop for this, and I'm really glad to do that. But that's because I'm a high initiator, my strengths to do that. But on the other side, it creates an awful lot of stress for everyone else. The last thing as well is half of this session will be a Miro or Miro board. So I will be sending you a link if you want to participate. So there's two halves to this. Okay, so before I think to give us some numbers, because it's great to have my opinion, but really I had to go out and find some information for those people who are initiating fact finders, people who need a lot of data. Where is this guy coming from, right? So, and I'll be really honest, it's really hard to find information on values. And if any of you out there know any places for good sources of that, I'd love to hear about that. Can link in with me, send it in the chat. I'd be really grateful for that. But I did find, and I'm not going to talk specifically about these values on this page, but I did find that there's this app called Office Vibe, and they've got 50,000 people on their platform, and they ask questions regularly on a weekly basis, very much like an engagement platform. but it was really useful for this workshop. And it's the number I really want you to look at is that 76%. 76% of the people on that platform think that their company core values will not help them grow. So why do you think that that's the case? If anyone could give us a shout on the chat, please. Sam Bree says the slide is so stimulating my neocortex brain. Interesting, Sylvia, because what people are saying and doing is not the same. That's a really interesting answer. Thank you. Spot on. Absolutely spot on. Pauline? Yes, there's a good piece there. Marissa and definitely Susan. Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm speaking to the converted, right? It's really about personal values. And like I definitely saw this over the last couple of years. Wrong job as well, yeah. So I guess to give you a context, in terms of the hobby work, we've done about 342 profiles. So people, right? So we've worked with a number of people, and that's not very big compared to the Heinekens and the Guinness and the guys out there. But the thing about being involved in assessing companies all the time is you see these great personal value, company values up on the wall. You might see them on their computers. You may even get it in the handbook. And you go and chat to people and you say to them, well, what does that mean to you? And they're stumped. They're absolutely stumped. And so what came to the light is that usually values for a company are often about one person and maybe a few people at the top. And companies tend to, I mean, if you're lucky, you'll crowdsource them a little bit. But in reality, having been through this myself as well, you spend a lot of money and time developing an image. You want to get your culture right. You want to get an ethos right. And sometimes you can see when companies have done really well at that, they almost write manifestos that are way beyond the original founders' values. But really, it starts with somebody with a vision and ideas, the purpose, everything. But I am not surprised at 76%. To how they should live the values, what to do and not to do. That definitely, there's an aspect of that. And even if we just spend time repeating values to our employees can help a lot. But and I want you to see this image. What does that tell you about personal values? If someone can chat in the chat, so I should explain. Betrayed. Very good one, Sandra. Oh, interesting, Eric. Applaud me or else. Pompous. Interesting. Thank you, Devyani. So I'll give it a couple more seconds. Ego. Interesting. And and that's a really interesting one, isn't it? Around possibly the ego of the two people. Very interesting. Venkatesh, thank you. Want to praise me? I think Leaders' personal values overriding others. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you look at these two people, if you look at that model of one person's values sort of spreading across an organization, well, these two people, one's leaving that job, another one's about to start it, and and so what they're doing is, it can't be helped, but some of their values are going to seep through, and these happen to be in quite well-known jobs, or one particular well-known job, and the baton is about to be handed over with someone who obviously has very different values to the person who came in from before. So, and I think that photo, when I was doing some research for this workshop, it just kind of really well sort of visually told us that thing around one person having something through. And I don't think it's fair, by the way. I really don't think it's fair if only one or a very select group can get to define their values. And actually, I think it was Kanesh in the panel today was saying, like, no one size fits all. And I was like, yes, absolutely. But how do we spend the time or money to talk to people around what their values are? Because really, there's almost a top-down thing. When we looked at the gig economy platform from Juliet, that's a more peer level thing. Things are changing. So I wondered if you could answer this question. I think a survey thing will come up. And I want you to look at the colored aspects of this one question. Have you re-explored and documented your personal values since COVID? And hopefully, Simeon, you can present a voting for us, please. And while that might come up. Ah, right, okay. Interesting. Okay. Ah, okay, I'm getting a live thing. Okay, 70-30 at the moment. 75-25. Not documented, yeah. Yeah, and that's a key thing, Marielle. It's a really, really, thank you so much for sharing that, Marielle. That's probably the most common thing I see during coaching. Journaling could count. I mean, it's your value, really, I guess, whether, but some form of writing or of getting something down is really important. And yes, great. Okay. So, and really, when I've been coaching with people pre and post COVID, and I say with, it's so the big thing there is really bringing these three areas together, and what even before COVID, right, was it, people were in roles that they were reasonably happy about, and that roles is that the value, that's the one half of this equation we're talking about today. And then they have some strengths, and the missing cog that I found with working with people one-to-one is they really hadn't worked out their personal values, or they knew them, right? We let's be honest, we know what our values are. We have societal and various other forms that impact and direct us. But I have lots of different examples where working with people, where they're stretching beyond their values, they're stretching, into a role that maybe wasn't really great for them, a lot of people I've worked with have worked have moved from enterprise to startup, and there's this whole thing around, what was good in both, and the thing that seems to join it. And I remember on the panel today, people were talking about the ideas of having a shared purpose for a team, and almost that purpose, it comes down into your values on an individual. So there is an alignment here, and this is my CTA um, was to bring you into your bliss in the middle, uh, and really the hidden dimension. And so I'm trained by Kathy Colby. So is Susan, who's on this call. So that's why I'm so excited to see her there. And it's the bit that we want to share. We are not sharing our marketing plan. We are sharing what we've been taught, which is an amazing thing, of learning the three parts of the mind. This is sort of copyrighted work and research that Kathy has done for over 40 years, working with millions of people through her platform. And so she has been able to split things up into how we operate in life. So, and they're quite simple things, right? There's words on there we all get on that chart. I'm looking in two ways. I've got it on two screens and it's directly in front of me. So here, on the left-hand side, cognitive, your thinking part of your brain, your IQ and your skills. And interestingly, Kathy's father was the person who wrote the very first IQ test, which was used en masse in America in the 1920s. And so and Kathy's about 85 years old now. And so he wrote this test that people used for mass recruitment. And he always told his daughter, I think there's another part of the mind that we're missing. I always think that, and I'm not sure what it is. So in relation to what we do within our own jobs and the people we might employ, the cognitive side is effectively your experience, your education, and it's always reflected in your CV. So if we're looking for a job or if we're seeking for new experiences, that's the cognitive bit. And we can test that, right? There's lots of IQ tests for different things. The next piece of the part of the brain is really the affective side, your personality. Now, interestingly, in assessments in the world of education, and there are much bigger HR leaders on this call than I am, there's a lot of work around MBTI, Myers-Briggs, DISC, Hogan, and all of those. But most of them reside in the affective or personality space, which is great, right? I mean, lots of us want to know what our personalities are. We want to understand how we work. And the piece with, I'll come back to you on that one, Paulina. And so the areas on the personality is really your desires. And, I'd almost say some of that emotional part would be in your affect as well. It's what drives you to get things done. In the terms of the workplace and in interviews, this is where we test. It's literally, are they a good cultural fit? Do I like that person? Do a number of people like that person? Maybe, so yeah, exactly, Susan. I do think emotional intelligence is in the personality bit, in the affective side. And so what we have is the balance of the cognitive and the personality. And this to me is why, and I think Susan would agree, this is why a lot of testing doesn't work, because we're missing the cognitive. And cognitive is your natural drive. It is how you and I will react to stress. So to keep it to the private equity people that I work with, I just say we just test for, if I tell them I test for strengths, that sounds a bit woolly. But if I tell them I will be able to test a team for stress, then they're interested. It's a bit like Sangrita's thing around asking for a no answer, but you're looking for the same response. So both Susan and I will test people for their ability to respond to stress. And it's inbuilt from you from the age of 6, and it never ever changes. So Arnavan and I on this call, we're exactly the same. We just go for it. We take risk. We look at the future. Susan is somebody who's more data driven and looks to the past, and combined, we're really, we're great teams. And it's a whole other thing. But the dimension's really important to understand. But if we don't get the but it's the ability to uncover our personal values is so important. And I'm going to do a little bit of a switch here. So if I can get you on my Miro board in the chat, I'm just going to put in connection to my board, if you can see that. And for those who want to, you'll be able to connect to the board and start doing some of this interactive pieces here. 1 second. Okay. Now, it does take a little bit to get going on Miro, and that's why I didn't do the entire piece. Can everyone see my screen, by the way? Great. And you can see the Miro screen with positive and, oh, I've got 9 people jumped on already, 10 people. I'm going to bring you all to me. Excellent. And we'll have a little bit of Miro fun. Now, remembering as a speaker, know your audience. So the thing here is that we got around 75 to 25% who said, yes, we've already, we have, it's bringing more people to me. We've already written and documented and reevaluated our values. But if you would just sort of play along with us, that would be great. And so here I guess in the world of HR and people and curious psychology, then it's really around how do we capture our own values. And the key piece, whoops, someone's playing around with the slides. Right, so the first thing is, if you could help me by just completing one or so of these stickies. And what I'm looking for is either an area where you've been most happiest or proud, that's on one side, and then what value stood out in that experience. Or what is really, really effective in the workplace is think of 3 people that you know that you really admire at work, and their name and maybe a value that they represent. So I've put in as an example Hubert and his determination. Thank you, guest. I can't see who that is, but someone's put in integrity, compassion, and adventure. Some great things in there. Penny, yeah. Thank you, Susan. And generous. And you can see there's a few weddings in there, right? So that's an event that presented a some value there. Oh, amazing listening from Julian. Freedom of choice. Authenticity from Hannah. staying real. Understanding, diversity, inclusion, understanding, optimistic, love that. I'm going to put in one myself. Who will I do? I will do Stefan, fun. I wish I could have some wait music or something, like some waiting room music or something in the background while we do this. Energy and enthusiasm. Oh, I can't see that. Federico, who challenges you. Yeah. So let's see if we can complete these stickies between us. Whoops. Oh, someone's doing one about their mum. Oh, wow, that's fun, love, and passion. That's some great values there. And really why I was driving a little bit at this is getting these things written down. I've had while we're doing this, I remember working with a couple of female entrepreneurs individually, and I found it quite amazing the situations they got themselves into. One had come from corporate into a small business, and then wasn't sure whether to into the next step, whether it was back to enterprise or back to small. And we couldn't, to be fair, we couldn't find the right thing from her cognitive ability or for her affective, because both worked really well. But when we started to work it on values, then it was really easy to work out the direction. So instead of working things out from our capability, which is our normal place to look for bringing things together, for our next venture, we looked at it purely on what do I stand for and do these companies stand for that. I know that younger people tend to get, and quite rightly and in a good way, a reputation for looking for passion and purposeful work, but I think we all deserve it if we can get it. Working for university, values, personal development, coaching young professionals. Great. And we've got resilience, determination, and passion. Got some notes down here as well. Let's see if I can. Oh, no. Okay. I think we get the idea. So, interestingly, most of the responses were around people and the values that those people represented. So I'm going to move on to the next one. Oh, we've got someone writing one here, so I'll let that finish. I cannot wait until we can all meet in person. It feels so strange having one way. Serving in leadership, I totally get that. Totally. Teamwork. So I'm going to move you on, okay? Just so we don't run off at time. And what I would really like you to look at is, if I can fix this, is basically your conflicts and suppressions. So it's quite easy to look for the values what things we fight for from a positive nature. But in contrast, think of a time when things made you angry or frustrated in the last year. That's the key thing here. What values were being challenged? And I will put one in. Thank you, Paulina. Lack of diversity, inclusion. Whoops, someone's redoing the board. So I'll make that smaller. Bullying. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that in the workplace. Not good. Lack of honesty. I'm going to put, in terms of a conflict, so on one side, I'm going to say it's like partnership. And then the value that has been causing a problem with is listening. Narrow-minded thinking. I think we've got some more coming up here. Oh, I forgot to do the bring it to me as well. So if we take out, it's interesting, isn't it? If we take out the words of lack of, the value that's underneath it is purely honesty, and lack of diversity inclusion. I think that was Paulina. So in her values, she was talking about diversity and inclusion, and then the lack of empathy. So empathy is a high value there. So I know this sounds quite simple stuff, but to be honest, it's one of the things that is really easy to address. And I've found even in COVID, working with people, I've just asked them, just give me your 5 values. And we've gone back on, not even through conversation, just on emails, but having them written down, it is something, why don't you get the same opportunity as the entrepreneurs and the business owners? And I understand that 75% of you have done this already, but please, just enjoy this, I guess, while we get the chance to do it. Oh, ego within myself. That's really interesting. That's fascinating. So arrogance, okay. Worth, wow. Worth has been determined by other employees. So self-worth is a major value there. A lack of freedom. Saying yes when it should be no. That is really interesting. And I'd love us to be in a room to understand what that, what's driving that underneath. Thank you so much, by the way. I really do appreciate you partaking in this. I am going to move on to the next part of this. It's your screenplay, right? So if I bring you in where I am, so all 16 of you should be here now. So it's a really simple case. I don't know what's going on here, but let's have a look. It's a simple case of trying to articulate what you had in the other examples. So in the other worksheets, and bringing them into words, right? And that's the other thing that I found really, really interesting, is that we might put our values down, but we tend to put one word like integrity or, sort of listening. I did it myself, right? But when you watch a company, they tend to spend a little bit more time articulating it to a slightly wider thing. So pushing forward was put on during our testing of this. Then I won't even pretend that that's happening over there on the left-hand side. So I won't even try and fix it, to be honest. So on here are some of my values that happen to go through my, through my business, grow or die. So I got that from another system actually, but the concept is always learning. But you want something that really resonates with people, and yeah, patience and being agile. Thank you. Um, Getting success, shared success. If you could help me fill this in, this would be great. I'll just, I'll package these up and make a little mini book. Kidding. But it is really interesting, right? Because it is I mean, we've probably spent 10, 15 minutes in these areas, and going from one words and examples, we already know what's important to us. But there is something really important around COVID, is the fact that we can reinvent ourselves. Being a better version of me. Interesting. And if you could have still seen the title here, it did say something about write your own, it's your screenplay. It's for you to write your life. So thank you. Someone's fixed that. Okay, so another one like here, really important, is people first. That's one of mine, and I work in technology. Everyone focuses on technology and the money or the product that they make, but they never really think about the people that make it, unless it's on an employee basis, really. So connect, great. All right, so I'm going to keep us moving. Thank you so much. All right. So that's kind of the first section on values. But then the really next and really important thing, and Chris Gunnian said earlier, and I loved it when he finished on the panel, build your digital footprint. And digital has something really, I know the last conference that Arnavan and Devyani had was all around AI, but there is a real massive impact in terms of the value we can bring to the world because of how things have gone digital. I know we're not in the workplace, we're working from home, but maybe what we were doing yesterday, so that there's an acronym here at work with you. This workshop was called The Value of You, and it comes down to yesterday, opportunity, and unite. So, or uniting. Right, okay, guys, 1 second before we start demolishing the Miro board. Let's bring you to me. All right, so yesterday, if you'd like to, I've got examples here, and I'll tell you, this is a very consulting 2x2. So on the top right corner, it's your Gartner best examples, the things in terms of your roles from the past. What do you love doing and you're good at it? On the left-hand side, what do you love doing, but you're still learning, you're not there yet. And then on the bottom left, I don't like it and I'm not good at it. And then, detail, brilliant. And then on the bottom right, don't like it and I'm competent. So if you could use the board and throw in some stickies, that would be great. So while anyone is filling that in for us, Paulina, thank you. Susan, thank you. So love it and still learning people. That's an ever learning desire, I think. Sales, interesting, don't like it, and competent. Innovation for Melissa, is that Melissa or Marissa? And mindset. Interesting. So I have some in here. I decided not to use client information. I think that's probably quite wrong of me to do that. So here I've just put in some bits around my own persona, if you like. And and really love it and good at it is sales. I love doing sales. I love coaching. I love speaking and ideation. So a little bit like the innovation. And there's managing people and governance and regulation, having things tied up, doing hands-on tech. I have 30 years experience of it. I'm competent at it, but I disregard it. Got some other new ones coming in. Thank you, Maisa. Speaking strategically, is that right? Okay. Left corner. Okay, great, Sandra. Thank you. How about the things you feel the push to do next, but you're afraid of trying? Does that fear say something? Is that left top corner or hand, do you think? Coaching. Okay, thank you. Love the quick responses. Okay. So I was going to move you on, but I'm actually going to work on this board. So if this was yesterday, right? So things of good nature, and you remember there was a discussion around the COO and really what really happened. Is actually the world changed. The carpet had been pulled from underneath them and all of us, and up here in the right hand corner, lots of organizational stuff, running a company, and really some of this stuff, because of the way things have become digital. So not so much the fact that it's working from home, because really COVID was the real launch of digital, in my opinion. That's my opinion, sorry. So look, there's two areas that are quite important. And this one here, where Erica mentioned around doing next and slight fear, or what does it mean? So I can't get that blue anyway. So you can see I'm doing this left corner. That's the most obvious area to look at, to think, oh, well, some of these things that I was doing, and many of us, including me, said roller coaster for the last year, right? Only a few people were said on the up. And we're just being vulnerable, right? None of us are. I mean, we're only human after all. So effectively, this is the most obvious place to look. I'm good at these things, but maybe some of these things are not valid anymore. But over here, I'm still learning. So speaking, video comms, mindset, technology leadership, marketing, all those things, saying hello. I think that was just added there. But and remember its roles, right? And things. And the other area I think is really interesting, and where working with people has been quite significant, is down here. So the most obvious thing is to go and learn something and continue on this learning path because you're passionate, you're interested. But often hidden beneath our psyches and our experiences are things we've done in the past that are more valuable now. And we've moved up in our organizations, and my kind of almost conflicting, challenging point is, this is the bit that's great and let's learn it. I don't know if you've seen, there's lots of people on LinkedIn, posting the qualifications that they're getting because there's more time, and they're definitely learning in the right way. But there's something in people's past and their value that from yesterday might have some value. And in the example that I'm using, the person I was working with had done an awful lot of work just managing a practice. And if the challenge really was up here in the things they're good at and they love doing, the outdoor market, the actual market they work for, didn't see as much value in what they did anymore. It wasn't that they were redundant, but they had to quickly work on what to do. So it might sound like a negative thing to go backwards, but it's a way to get secure. So there is a kind of a combination of going really fast here on the left-hand side to learn something. And this is obviously down to personal mindset, views, but go and learn some new things. But by all means, work out what you've got from the past to see if you can get some value from that. Thank you so much for partaking on that piece. It means I can go past on the next slide, which is effectively the opportunity. So working out those opportunities. And I wonder if in the chat, if anyone else has had any experiences like that, or they've found things that has become more valuable that they maybe didn't think were valuable previously. Video editing. Okay, Venkatesh, thank you. Okay, so I'll give you a minute to think about that, but important dimension. I posted on it on LinkedIn the other day about having a good sort of routine, and almost having exercise is something we were probably definitely, it's fuel, definite energy and fuel to all the other things that we're trying within our lives. So I totally agree with that. But there's another opportunity here if we're talking about what can we bring to the world. And that is really, oops, someone's moved the photo, and I'm not going to try and move it back, but why not, is how do we unite? And so it's great doing this inner work. It's great to find our personal values. Does the work that we do today really align with what the world wants? Do the companies we work for align with our personal values? Because it tends to be quite a one-way relationship. But then, even if you spend the weeks of whatever time it takes for you to get to that point, how on earth do you get that out to the world when you've been labeled or pigeonholed into a certain role? And does anyone have any thoughts on how to do that? Okay, so the I think I mentioned it earlier. Chris was saying build your digital footprint. I think that's possibly part of it. But the next stage of that is, oh, sorry, Orhan. I was just asking if you have spent the time and working out your values, so your personal values, then you've taken the time to work out what your value is to the world. What's really relevant today? Then how do you get that message out to the world? How do you find, a way to get that out to other people so they go, do you know what? I'll consider you to do something different than maybe what you're pigeonholed to do. I think you've got project management there, so maybe, or being an activist. Great answer. Just noticed everyone's still on this board. The challenge, I would say, I think people are still all around. So really, if I unite you and bring you here to me, so effectively, I need to be a motivator That's a really interesting thing. Yeah, and it is a very difficult question. And um, I think really, in my opinion, we have to lead with our values. Um, oh, really? Interesting. Your brain is making overtime. So we've got a raised hand here. Okay, cool. So I haven't got many more slides left. Whoops. So if we just, yes, yeah, okay. If you want to change your brand, network. But I would add one more thing, which is get your values out there, because we can pitch what we do. But if we can pitch what we value, then people will start feeling what you're doing. And I learned this amazing term, which is you stop selling when you start selling. So when things start to work, you stop selling, inordinate objects. You start selling who you are. You just tell people who and what you stand for. So, and the other question I did think about a lot when putting this together was we never put, I mean, most of us don't put our values in our CVs. We have to try and read a CV and try and dissect and work out who that person is from the way that they write. I do know in marketing CVs, they do make it much more like a one page. It's very sort of good and graphics based. Anyway, I would like to then just finish off really just to say the one thing I'd love you to be able to do if you get the chance is to examine and document, reevaluate your values, examine so that get your values in place, write them down, and then look at your value and what you're learning for the future and what have you got from the past that might be helpful for you. And I'm always going to talk about natural strengths because that's what myself and Susan always work on. And my details are here on the slide. And that's the interaction over. So thank you very much.
On stage. Hey, Hutton. Yeah, so I just, again, great workshop. Your workshops tends to sort of trigger off some of the thinking, trigger off some reflection, as well as a good deal of mindfulness that needs to be there. And as you can see, lots of comments coming in from the session. So thank you for that, Hutton. Had any sort of final thoughts before we wrap up the session?
Yeah, no, I thank you first of all for everyone interacting. And I think also what really helped was the talking and the speeches beforehand. So it was really great to see that. And thanks for being vulnerable as well. It really helped from stage one. So appreciate your time and input.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this is what, Devyani and I, we had a side conversation on this one because literally we were also thinking whether people would be ready to sort of expose their vulnerable side or not. But during the workshop, I saw so many people literally opening up.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I didn't know with that first question whether people would, and you saw all the roller coasters come in. And then we become our authentic selves and we can start talking even through this weird digital thing, right? So
exactly getting used to it. So good. So with that, I would do a virtual round of applause. Thanks,
thank you.
for
and I will share the slides as well. So
yeah.
Someone just asked for that. Thank you all for your input.